First though, nuclear energy and the potential timeline for construction of a small modular reactor or reactors to sit alongside renewables and gas. Well, strangely, it depends on what media you consume as to whether this version of nuclear energy is on the way or not. And curiously, the conflicting reports come from the same agency, the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering. Funny that. The headline in the Herald Sun and other news tabloids today says nuclear possible by the 2030s. Flick to the Nine newspapers though, and it's a very different story. The Sydney Morning Herald's online report of the same study is this: top agency casts doubt on nuclear reactors flagged by Dutton. Now, I had to check. We were talking about the same agency, the same analysis, and sure enough, we are. So the obvious question is, how can two different reporters come to two vastly different assessments of the very same thing? And I think we all know the answer to that question, with Nine's version being clearly anti-nuclear, perhaps because the reporter thinks that's what her audience wants to read. The Nine reporter begins her piece like this: a fully formed market for small-scale nuclear reactors is unlikely to develop in Australia for more than 20 years because the cost and the operational performance of the technology are yet to be proven. Now, this apparently suits the narrative of that report, and the reporter goes on to make the point Peter Dutton, in releasing his energy plan in June, talked of nuclear, and since, of course, he has made it clear a Dutton-led government would go down that path. So what does this agency actually say about small modular nukes? Well, it states that a number of prototypes of advanced nuclear reactors could be operational in the first half of the 2030s, so say in 10 years' time. In the report's words, a fully formed and competitive small modular reactor, the SMR, market capable of delivering significant numbers of next-of-kind reactors, is a 10-year challenge. But she says it is possible that several prototype SMRs may be licensed, commissioned and built in an OECD country by the mid-2030s. So the anti-nuclear report pushes the timeline out to the 2040s when the actual agency talks of 10 years, not 20. This is the sort of nonsense this debate creates. It's as clear as the nose on your face that Australia needs the full suite of energy resources if we are to avoid industry wrecking and community smashing blackouts. Now, as Peter Dutton said today,
we can't continue a situation that Labor has us on of a renewables-only policy, because as we know, your power prices are just going to keep going up under this Prime Minister. We also know that we're going to see blackouts and brownouts. We don't want a California-type situation in our country where there are scheduled blackouts and brownouts.
And is everyone forgetting the actual cost to business and jobs?
Businesses just won't stay here. High energy use businesses won't compete. They can't manufacture in an environment like that. They go to Malaysia, or they'll go to Wyoming or somewhere else in the world where they can get reliable and cheaper energy.
It's Peter Dutton. Now, to prove that point, just have a look at the most recent AEMO quarterly report, which coincidentally was also out today. It reveals a whopping 43% increase in the wholesale price of electricity for Victorians compared to this time last year. The average cost of wholesale electricity in Victoria between April to June reached $127 a megawatt hour, up from just $39 compared with the same quarter last year. 127 up from just 39. And why? Well, a cold snap in that state combined with, wait for it, a renewables drought. And what does that mean exactly? Well, there has been, and this is a new one to me, a wind drought and not much sunshine. Just let that sink in for a second and imagine where we are in the middle of Chris Bowen's green dream and coal has been turned off. We don't like gas much anymore, and it's been cold and not very windy, and there hasn't been much rain.
What this report shows is that the lights are going to go out and that wind in particular is not reliable. You can't run a full-time economy on part-time power. And we know that when we've got no wind blowing, when you've got a period of rain or cloudy weather, the intermittent power is not feeding into the network, and you need to have a reliable baseload power.
Dutton's exactly right. Try running a full-time economy on part-time power. It's impossible. Can you imagine what the wholesale price of electricity would be then? No coal, no gas, 100% renewables, reliable power gone. It doesn't bear thinking about. But I'll tell you what it will be, a lot higher than $127 a megawatt hour. That same report, by the way, talks about the lowest winds in 7 years in Victoria, meaning wind generation was down by 20%, and that lack of rain saw hydro generation fall by 18%. Oh, and by the way, Victoria's $127 a megawatt hour was the third highest in the nation. New South Wales was $173 and South Australia $135. And what did our reckless Energy Minister Chris Bowen have to say about all of this? He said, well, energy prices are a serious issue for businesses, but backed the government's renewables plan, saying wholesale prices were lower than when the coalition left office. He wasn't finished making a git of himself, though. He went on to say, the data shows renewables provide cheaper power, and when we are forced to rely on coal generation and ageing unreliable assets, it drives prices up. Now, Bowen didn't mention the wind drought. I guess he missed that part of the report.